Welcome to our deep dive into Master Your Emotions, a practical guide to overcome negativity and better manage your feelings by Thibaut Muris.
Okay.
You shared this book and asked us to kind of get to the heart of it.
Right.
And we'll be kind of exploring, how to understand and manage our emotions better so we can, unlock a richer and more empowered life.
Yeah.
So let's jump right in.
So one of the things this book does so well is to highlight how our brains, while, amazing, are also kind of stuck in the Stone Age. They're wired for survival, even if those instincts aren't always super helpful in our modern world.
So we're walking around with caveman brains trying to navigate a world of smartphones and social media.
Precisely.
Okay.
And one of the biggest quirks of that Stone Age wiring is something called the negativity bias.
Okay.
Our brains tend to latch onto negative experiences much more strongly than positive ones.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that. It's like one negative comment can completely overshadow a dozen positive ones.
Right.
Why is that?
Well, the book uses this fascinating example of an author who received tons of 5-star reviews, but was totally devastated by a single 1-star review.
Oh, wow.
It's because our brains are wired to prioritize threats, even if those threats are just a harsh email or a critical comment online.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But how does this negativity bias actually play out in our, everyday lives?
It can show up in subtle ways, like dwelling on a minor inconvenience while ignoring all the good things that are going on in your life.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So it's not just about big dramatic events.
Yeah.
It's also about how we perceive just everyday situations.
Exactly.
Okay.
This brings us to another important concept from the book, the role of dopamine in our pursuit of happiness.
Okay, dopamine, that's the feel-good chemical, right?
Right, yeah. It's essential for survival, motivating us to seek food, shelter, connection.
Yeah.
All those things that keep us going.
Yeah.
But in today's world, it can be easily hijacked.
Hijacked. What do you mean by that?
Well, think about those social media notifications that give you a little rush of excitement, or the feeling you get when you buy something new.
Yeah.
These are all little dopamine hits.
So we're constantly chasing these little fleeting bursts of pleasure.
Exactly.
Okay.
And this is where the book kind of challenges our assumptions about happiness. It explores this study on lottery winners and paraplegics.
Okay.
And they found that like a year after these life-altering events, both groups returned to their baseline levels of happiness.
Wait, so winning the lottery doesn't guarantee lasting happiness?
Not according to this research.
Wow.
It highlights the concept of hedonic adaptation.
Okay.
Our minds kind of adjust to new circumstances over time, even incredibly positive or negative ones. Like that new car smell eventually fades.
That's true.
Yeah.
So external things like money or possessions don't bring lasting happiness.
Right.
Then what does?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And this is where the book dives into the concept of the ego, which is essentially our constructed self-identity.
Ah, the ego.
Yeah.
Always causing trouble.
It was not necessarily about the ego being bad.
Okay.
It's more about becoming aware of how it operates and how it can influence our emotional experiences.
Okay, I'm listening.
The book explains how the ego seeks to kind of strengthen itself
Oh, okay.
by identifying with things, people, or beliefs. And these identifications can have a huge impact on our emotional responses.
Can you give me some examples of how this plays out?
Sure. Think about our attachment to physical possessions.
Okay.
The ego loves status symbols.
Uh-huh.
Marketers know this, and they exploit it through branding.
Yeah.
They're not just selling a product, they're selling an identity, a story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. We often buy things for what they represent, not just for their practical value.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not just material things.
Okay.
This identification can extend to our bodies, our relationships, even our beliefs. Right? The ego is always seeking validation and security. Yeah.
So if we're overly attached to our physical appearance, or if we constantly need approval from others, or if we cling rigidly to certain beliefs, that's the ego at work.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's about recognizing those patterns and starting to question whether those identifications are truly serving us.
This is making me think about all the things I've been kind of letting dictate my emotions.
Yeah.
It's like a whole new way of looking at myself.
Self-awareness is a really powerful tool.
Yeah.
Once we start to understand how our minds work, we can start to make more conscious choices about how we respond to the world around us.
Okay, so we've talked about the negativity bias, dopamine, and the ego.
Right.
But how do these things all tie together? How are emotions actually formed?
The book lays out a really clear process.
Sure.
It starts with a random thought that just kind of arises in our minds.
Okay.
And then we identify with that thought,
Mm-hmm.
which triggers an emotional reaction. And the more we identify with that thought, the stronger the emotion becomes.
Well, it sounds like a feedback loop.
Precisely.
Okay.
So for example, let's say you have a thought about a bill you need to pay.
Yeah.
And you identify with that thought, like, I'm never going to be financially secure.
Mm-hmm.
You'll start to feel anxious.
Yeah.
The more you dwell on that thought, the more intense the anxiety becomes.
And it's the same with other emotions like anger or sadness.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Think about replaying an argument in your head over and over.
Yeah.
Fueling that resentment.
Right.
Or dwelling on a past mistake, intensifying those feelings of shame.
Yeah.
It's a really powerful cycle.
So if our thoughts kind of create our emotions, does that mean we can change our emotions by changing our thoughts?
That's the really empowering message of this book.
Okay.
We have more control over our emotional experiences than we often realize. It all starts with becoming aware of our thoughts and the meanings we assign to events.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this all fits together. But if we're not supposed to get caught up in our emotions, how do we actually deal with them when they arise?
Right.
Especially those negative ones that can really throw us off track.
Well, that's where the book introduces the concept of letting go.
Okay.
It's about detaching from our emotions by observing them without judgment or getting swept away in the stories our minds create.
Letting go sounds great in theory, but how do we actually do that?
Well, the book suggests a few key steps.
Okay.
First, you simply observe the emotion.
Okay.
Notice the physical sensations in your body, the thoughts that arise, without kind of getting caught up in the drama of it all.
So like acknowledging, okay, I'm feeling angry right now,
Yeah.
but not spiraling into this person's a jerk and they always do this and my life is terrible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing the emotion as a temporary experience, like a wave passing through,
Yeah.
rather than clinging to it as part of your identity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of saying I am angry, maybe it's more like I'm noticing anger arising.
That's a great way to put it. And then the book suggests labeling the emotion,
Mm.
not as I am angry, but this is anger,
Okay.
creating that separation between the feeling and our sense of self.
Interesting. So it's about shifting our perspective.
Precisely.
Okay.
And then the book emphasizes the importance of not engaging with the stories our minds inevitably want to create around the emotion.
Okay.
It's about dropping the why and simply allowing the emotion to be present without resistance.
So not getting sucked into that mental loop of why am I feeling this? What does this mean about me? Who's to blame?
Right.
Yeah.
Those thoughts are just thoughts.
Yeah.
They're not ultimate truth.
Okay.
They don't define us.
It's all starting to click.
Good.
But I have to admit, letting go sounds a lot easier than it probably is in practice.
It definitely takes practice.
Yeah.
But the book shares a great anecdote about the author realizing he was clinging to a stressful workaholic story that wasn't actually serving him.
Tell me more about that.
So he was working these long hours, not because he had to,
Okay.
but because he'd bought into this story of, I must constantly be productive to be successful.
Right.
Once he became aware of that story
Yeah.
and started questioning it, he was able to make changes and reduce his stress levels significantly.
That's so relatable.
Yeah,
I think we all have those stories we tell ourselves that hold us back.
we do.
Yeah.
But the beauty of self-awareness is that we can start to recognize those patterns and choose to write a new story,
Yeah.
a story that empowers us and supports our well-being.
This is giving me a lot to think about.
Yeah.
It sounds like we have far more control over our emotions than we often realize.
We do.
Yeah.
And the book goes even further, suggesting that we can actually condition our minds to experience more positive emotions.
Okay.
It's not about forcing ourselves to be happy all the time,
Right.
but about consciously cultivating a more positive emotional landscape.
Wait, so we can train our brains for happiness? How does that work?
Well, one technique the book highlights is the power of positive affirmations.
Okay, I've heard about those, but I've always been a bit skeptical.
It's not about mindlessly repeating phrases.
Okay.
It's about choosing affirmations that resonate with you and using them as tools to kind of shift your mindset. The book emphasizes using the present tense, I am confident,
Right.
not I will be confident.
So you're embodying the feeling you want to cultivate.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the book suggests repeating the affirmation for several minutes each day consistently to really embed it in your subconscious mind.
Okay. What are some examples of powerful affirmations?
The book shares some great ones like, I love being confident.
Yeah.
Or I am independent of the good or bad opinions of others.
Those are great.
Yeah.
I can already feel my inner critic starting to squirm.
That's normal.
Yeah.
It takes practice to override those negative thought patterns.
Right.
The book also suggests combining affirmations with visualization,
Okay.
creating vivid mental images of yourself, embodying the desired emotion or quality.
So like picturing yourself confidently nailing that presentation.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's about engaging your imagination to reinforce the positive affirmation.
I like that.
Yeah.
And the book mentions another technique for kind of conditioning the mind, a gratitude exercise.
Yes.
Yeah.
It encourages you to choose an object and really appreciate the intricate web of people and processes involved in its creation.
Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. Let's say you choose a simple chair.
Okay.
You start by thinking about all the people involved in its creation.
Right.
The designers, the woodworkers, the factory workers, the truck drivers who transported it, the store employees who sold it.
Yeah.
Then you consider all the processes,
Mm-hmm.
the harvesting of the wood, the manufacturing, the shipping, the marketing.
Right.
It's about recognizing the interconnectedness of everything
Mm-hmm.
and cultivating a sense of appreciation for the abundance in your life.
Wow. That's a really powerful way to shift your perspective.
Yeah.
It's so easy to take things for granted.
Exactly. And by focusing on the journey,
Uh-huh.
on the effort and ingenuity involved,
Yeah.
we can cultivate a deeper sense of gratitude for even the most ordinary objects.
This is making me want to do a gratitude inventory of my entire apartment.
Yeah.
I've never thought about it that way before.
It's amazing how such a simple shift in perspective can have a profound impact on our emotional state.
So to recap, we can kind of condition our minds for positivity through affirmations, visualizations, and gratitude exercises.
Right.
What other techniques does the book recommend?
Well, it dives into the idea of changing our emotions by changing our behavior
Okay.
and even our environment.
Okay, I'm ready to dive into those strategies.
Okay.
Let's unpack them.
Let's start with changing our behavior.
Okay.
The book emphasizes that our emotions and actions are interconnected. Often we wait to feel motivated before taking action,
Right.
but sometimes taking action can actually shift our emotional state.
So like, even if I don't feel like working out, going for a run can actually boost my mood.
Exactly.
Okay.
The book calls this changing your emotions by changing your behavior.
That makes sense. I've definitely experienced that.
Yeah.
Sometimes the hardest part is just getting started.
Right.
But once I do, my energy and motivation kind of tend to follow.
It's like breaking the inertia.
Uh-huh.
The book gives the example of feeling anxious about an upcoming presentation.
Yeah.
Instead of getting stuck in that anxiety, you could take action by rehearsing your speech thoroughly.
Yeah.
That action, in turn, can boost your confidence and reduce your anxiety.
That's a great example.
Yeah.
And what about changing our environment? How can that impact our emotions?
Our surroundings have a huge impact on our mental and emotional states.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm definitely more relaxed and productive in a clean, organized space.
Right.
Clutter really stresses me out.
That's a perfect example.
Yeah.
The book talks about how our physical environment, our homes, our workplaces, even the natural world around us can influence our mood energy levels and overall well-being.
So if we're feeling stuck in a rut,
Mhm.
sometimes it's not just about changing our thoughts or behaviors, but also about changing our surroundings.
Exactly.
Okay.
It can be as simple as decluttering your desk, adding some plants to your workspace, or getting out into nature more often.
I love those suggestions.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much our environment can affect our well-being.
Right.
This deep dive is already giving me so many practical ideas.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
And the book goes even further, suggesting that we can actually use our emotions as valuable guides for personal growth.
Wait, our emotions can actually help us grow, even the negative ones.
That's the kind of radical idea the book explores.
Okay.
It suggests that instead of seeing emotions as something to be avoided or suppressed,
Yeah.
we can actually see them as signals pointing to areas in our lives where we might need to make changes.
Okay. That's a really different way of looking at things.
Yeah.
Can you give me an example?
Absolutely. Let's say you're feeling chronically stressed out.
Okay.
Instead of just trying to manage the stress, you could dig deeper and ask yourself, what is this stress trying to tell me? What areas of my life are out of alignment? What changes do I need to make?
Wow, that's so insightful.
Yeah,
It's like our emotions are messengers trying to get our attention.
exactly.
Okay.
And the book is full of inspiring stories about individuals who have used their emotional challenges as catalysts for growth.
Like turning lemons into lemonade?
Yeah.
Tell me about some of those stories.
Well, the book shares the incredible story of Alice Summer, a concert pianist who found joy and laughter even while imprisoned in a concentration camp during World War II.
Wow.
She refused to let her circumstances define her spirit.
Wow, that's incredibly inspiring. To find joy in such unimaginable circumstances is truly remarkable.
It is.
Yeah.
And the book also shares the story of Nick Vujicic, who was born without limbs, but has gone on to lead an incredibly fulfilling life as a motivational speaker, author, and family man.
It's amazing how the human spirit can overcome such immense challenges.
It is.
These stories really highlight the idea that our happiness and fulfillment aren't determined by our circumstances, but by our mindset.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the book provides a framework for cultivating that resilient mindset.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's so empowering to know that we have the power to choose our responses, even in the face of adversity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the book doesn't just talk about these concepts theoretically.
Right.
It provides practical tools and techniques for addressing specific emotional challenges.
Perfect. Let's dive into those techniques. It's time to get actionable.
Okay, let's start with a common challenge that many of us experience, the feeling of not being good enough.
I think that feeling of inadequacy can be so crippling.
Yeah.
It's like an inner critic that's constantly telling us we're not smart enough, talented enough, or successful enough.
It's a common struggle. And the book reminds us that this feeling is often amplified by the negativity bias, our brain's tendency to focus on our shortcomings while overlooking our accomplishments.
That negativity bias again.
It's a powerful force.
Yeah.
But the book provides some practical strategies for combating those feelings of inadequacy.
Okay, I'm all ears.
All right.
We need all the help we can get.
One technique is to keep a win log,
Okay.
a record of your daily accomplishments, both big and small.
Okay, I can see how that would be helpful. It's like a tangible reminder of all the things we're doing well, instead of just dwelling on the things we think we're messing up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about consciously shifting our focus to the positive.
Right.
And the book also emphasizes the importance of learning to accept compliments gracefully.
Oh, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
I'm definitely guilty of deflecting compliments or downplaying my achievements.
It's a common tendency, especially for those of us struggling with self-doubt.
Yeah.
But the book encourages us to simply say, thank you, and let the compliment in.
It sounds so simple, but I bet it takes a lot of practice to overcome that ingrained habit of deflecting praise.
It definitely does.
Yeah.
But it's a worthwhile practice.
Yeah.
And the book provides some really helpful tips for making it easier.
So for anyone listening who's struggling with feeling not good enough, the key takeaways are to keep a win log, accept compliments gracefully, and remember that you're not alone in this struggle.
Exactly. And the book goes on to address other common emotional challenges like defensiveness.
Defensiveness, that knee-jerk reaction to protect ourselves when we feel attacked or criticized, I think we've all been there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the book helps us understand that defensiveness often stems from a desire to protect our ego, our carefully constructed self-image.
So if someone criticizes us, we jump to defend ourselves, even if the criticism is valid.
Often, yes.
Yeah.
It's like our ego is saying, hey, that doesn't fit the story I've created about myself.
Right. It's making me think about how many arguments are really just battles of egos.
It's a powerful insight.
Yeah.
And the book encourages us to become more aware of our defensive tendencies,
Okay.
to ask ourselves, what belief am I trying to protect here? Can I let go of this belief? What would I be without this belief?
Those are great questions to ask ourselves. It's about shifting from reacting defensively to responding consciously.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the book provides some really helpful strategies for doing just that.
So for anyone listening who struggles with defensiveness, the takeaway is to become aware of the beliefs driving your reactions and to challenge those beliefs when they're no longer serving you.
Exactly.
Okay.
And another common emotional challenge the book addresses is stress and worry.
Okay, who doesn't struggle with those? Stress and worry seem like constant companions in our modern lives.
They definitely can be. And the book starts by helping us understand that stress and worry aren't inherent qualities of situations, but rather they're created by our interpretations of those situations.
Okay, explain that a bit more. I thought stressful situations were well stressful.
It's natural to think that.
Yeah.
But the book emphasizes that it's not the situation itself that creates stress,
Okay.
but our thoughts and beliefs about the situation.
Okay, I'm starting to see the distinction. Can you give us an example?
Sure. Let's say you're stuck in traffic.
Okay.
You could see it as a frustrating inconvenience, a major disruption to your plans, and feel stressed out.
Yeah.
Or you could choose to see it as an opportunity to listen to an audiobook
Yeah.
and catch up on phone calls, or simply relax and enjoy the scenery.
Wow, that's a great example.
Yeah.
It's the same situation being stuck in traffic, but two totally different interpretations.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the book encourages us to take responsibility for our interpretations, to become aware of the thoughts and beliefs that are creating our stress and worry.
So instead of saying, this traffic jam is stressing me out, it's more like, I'm choosing to feel stressed out about this traffic jam.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's about empowering ourselves to choose our responses.
Okay, that's a powerful shift.
And when it comes to worry, the book emphasizes the importance of sorting out our worries into those we can control and those we can't.
That makes sense. Worrying about things we can't control is just a recipe for anxiety.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So the book encourages us to identify our worries, assess whether they're within our control, and then take action on the things we can actually change.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's about moving from passive worrying to active problem solving.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And for the worries that are outside of our control, the book suggests practicing acceptance.
Acceptance, that's easier said than done.
It definitely is.
Yeah.
But the book provides some really helpful guidance on how to cultivate acceptance even in the face of challenging circumstances.
So for anyone listening who's feeling overwhelmed by stress and worry, the key takeaways are to take responsibility for your interpretations, sort out your worries into controllable and uncontrollable, and practice acceptance for the things you can't change.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the book goes on to address another common challenge.
Yeah.
Caring too much about what other people think.
That one's a biggie for me. It's like I'm constantly worried about being judged or rejected.
You're not alone in that.
Yeah.
And the book starts by reminding us that most people are primarily concerned with themselves.
Really? I always feel like everyone's noticing my every move and judging me.
It's a common misconception.
Yeah.
The book suggests a helpful exercise. Choose someone you know.
Okay.
And ask yourself, how often do I really think about this person in my daily life? And then flip it. How often do you think they're thinking about you?
That's a great point. I bet I spend way more time thinking about myself than I do thinking about other people, and I'm sure it's the same for them.
It's a liberating realization.
Yeah.
And the book also encourages us to question our need for external validation,
Right.
to recognize that our worthiness isn't dependent on the opinions of others.
That's such an important message. It's about finding that sense of self-worth from within.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the book provides some really helpful strategies for cultivating that inner confidence and self-acceptance.
So for anyone listening who's feeling trapped by the need for approval, the takeaway is to remember that most people are too busy worrying about themselves to be constantly judging you,
Yeah,
and to focus on building your self-worth from within.
exactly.
Okay.
And the book goes on to explore other common emotions like resentment, jealousy, and depression.
Okay, let's dive into those.
Okay.
These are some heavy hitters emotions that can really drag us down if we let them.
They definitely can.
Yeah.
And the book offers some really insightful perspectives and strategies for dealing with them.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's hear it.
Let's start with resentment. The book explains that it often builds up when we kind of hold on to anger and hurt from past experiences, especially when we haven't really addressed those experiences directly.
So it's like we just keep replaying that argument or that hurtful event over and over in our minds.
Yeah.
Fueling the resentment instead of letting it go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the book emphasizes the importance of kind of confronting the situation that's causing the resentment,
Okay.
either through direct communication, or if that's not possible, maybe through journaling or writing a letter that we don't necessarily send.
Yeah, confrontation can be so difficult.
Yeah.
But I can see how addressing the issue head on,
Right.
even if it's just through writing, could help to release some of that pent-up energy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the book also highlights the power of forgiveness.
Forgiveness, that's a tough one.
Yeah,
It can be so hard to forgive someone who has hurt us deeply.
it is.
Yeah.
And the book emphasizes that forgiveness isn't about condoning the behavior that hurt us.
Right.
It's about releasing ourselves from the grip of anger and resentment.
So it's not about saying what you did was okay,
Right.
but more about saying, I'm choosing to let go of the anger and pain so I can move on.
Exactly. It's
Like-
about reclaiming our emotional freedom.
That's a powerful way to look at it.
Yeah.
And then once we've kind of confronted the situation and practiced forgiveness, The book suggests choosing to forget.
Right.
Is that even possible?
Well,
Some hurts just feel so deep.
it's not about erasing the memory.
Okay.
It's about consciously shifting our focus away from the past
Yeah.
and towards the present moment.
So instead of dwelling on what happened
Right.
and letting it control our emotions,
Right.
we're choosing to focus on creating a more positive future.
Precisely.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, what about jealousy? That's another emotion that can be incredibly destructive.
It can.
Yeah.
But the book offers a really interesting perspective on jealousy. It suggests that jealousy can actually be a valuable guide to what we truly desire.
Wait, so our jealousy can actually point us in the right direction. How is that possible?
Let's say you're feeling jealous of a friend's success in a particular field.
Okay.
Instead of letting that jealousy consume, you could ask yourself, what is it about their success that I find so appealing?
Mm-hmm.
Is this a sign that I want to pursue something similar in my own life?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
So instead of seeing jealousy as a purely negative emotion,
Right.
we can use it as a tool for self-discovery.
Exactly.
Okay.
The book also emphasizes the importance of kind of shifting from a mindset of competition to a mindset of cooperation.
So instead of seeing other people's success as a threat,
Right.
we can view it as inspiration or even an opportunity for collaboration.
Precisely.
I like that shift.
Yeah.
It's so much more empowering. Now, how does the book address depression? That's a serious issue that affects so many people.
It is. And the book approaches it with a lot of sensitivity and understanding.
Okay.
It emphasizes that depression is a complex issue with a variety of contributing factors, and it encourages seeking professional help when needed.
So it's not just about snapping out of it or thinking positive thoughts?
Definitely not.
Okay.
The book acknowledges the complexity of depression and offers a range of strategies for managing it.
Okay. What are some of those strategies?
Well, one key strategy is to kind of challenge those negative thoughts and beliefs that contribute to feelings of hopelessness.
So it's about recognizing that our thoughts aren't always accurate reflections of reality
Right.
and choosing to focus on more empowering perspectives.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the book also highlights the importance of taking action, even small steps towards creating positive change.
So even when we're feeling down, we can still take steps to improve our situation.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's about focusing on what we can control.
This is all so encouraging. It's
Yeah.
giving me a renewed sense of hope.
That's the power of understanding our emotions and learning to kind of work with them, not against them.
Yeah, this book really emphasizes how our emotions can be valuable guides for growth.
It does.
Yeah.
It suggests that even challenging emotions like fear can be catalysts for positive change.
Fear.
Yeah.
That's counterintuitive. How can fear be a good thing?
Well, think about it. When are we most likely to feel fear? It's when we're stepping outside of our comfort zones, trying something new,
Right.
challenging ourselves to grow.
I guess that's true.
Yeah.
So fear can be a sign that we're on the right track, that we're pushing our boundaries and expanding our potential.
Exactly. And the book emphasizes that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's taking action in spite of the fear.
So it's not about waiting for the fear to go away,
Right.
but about moving forward even when we're feeling scared.
Precisely.
Okay.
The book includes this powerful quote from Benjamin Franklin. Some people die at 25 and aren't buried until 75.
Wow. That's a good reminder to not let fear dictate our choices.
Yeah.
We don't want to live a life of regret.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the book provides some practical strategies for managing fear and taking courageous action.
So for those of us who are struggling with fear, the takeaway is to reframe it as a potential signal for growth,
Right.
and then to choose courage over comfort.
Right.
Okay.
And now let's talk about another challenge that can hold us back. Procrastination.
Oh, procrastination.
Yeah.
I think we've all been there at some point.
We have.
Yeah.
And the book kind of dives into the underlying causes of procrastination, linking it to fear, lack of motivation, or a desire to avoid discomfort.
That makes sense.
Yep.
We tend to put off tasks that feel unpleasant or challenging.
Exactly. And the book outlines a 16-step process for overcoming procrastination.
16 steps sounds like a lot.
It is quite a few,
Can you give us a quick overview?
of course. The process starts with becoming aware of the stories and excuses we tell ourselves when we're tempted to procrastinate.
So like, I'll do it later, or I work better under pressure.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then the book encourages us to kind of rewrite those stories with more empowering affirmations.
So instead of I'll do it later, it becomes, I choose to prioritize this task and take action now.
Precisely.
Okay.
It's about shifting our language and our mindset. The process also emphasizes the importance of clarifying our why, connecting the task we're doing to a compelling vision that motivates us.
So we're not just doing the task because we have to.
Yeah.
We're connecting it to a bigger purpose that inspires us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the process also includes strategies for managing distractions, setting up our environment for success, and breaking down tasks into smaller, more manageable steps.
Those are all great tips.
Yeah.
It's about creating systems that support our productivity
Right.
instead of sabotaging it.
Exactly.
Oh.
And it also highlights the importance of cultivating self-discipline and celebrating those quick wins along the way.
Yeah, self-discipline is definitely key.
Yeah.
And celebrating our progress can help us stay motivated.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the book provides some really helpful tools and techniques for building that self-discipline muscle.
So for anyone struggling with procrastination, the key is to understand your patterns,
Right.
rewrite your stories, clarify your why,
Yeah,
and create systems that support your productivity.
exactly.
Okay. This has been incredibly insightful. I'm starting to see how all of these concepts kind of connect.
They do.
Yeah.
They're all part of a larger framework for kind of mastering our emotions and creating a more fulfilling life.
Okay, I'm ready for the final piece of the puzzle.
Okay.
How do we deal with a lack of motivation?
Well, the book suggests that a lack of motivation is often a sign that we're not aligned with our true selves.
So it's about figuring out who we are at our core and then making choices that reflect.
The book talks about the concept of following your bliss, finding those activities that bring us joy and a sense of purpose.
I love that concept.
Yeah.
But sometimes it feels like bliss is this far-off destination.
Right.
Like I have to figure out my whole life purpose before I can feel motivated.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be that grand.
Okay.
The book emphasizes that finding purpose can start with small steps, with identifying our strengths and exploring activities that bring us joy.
So it's about noticing what we're naturally good at and what energizes us.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the book encourages us to kind of ask ourselves these questions. What are my core values? What activities align with those values? What brings me a sense of meaning and purpose?
Those are great questions.
Yeah.
It's about getting to know ourselves on a deeper level.
Right.
And making choices that honor who we truly are.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the book provides some really helpful strategies for clarifying our values, identifying our strengths, and setting goals that are aligned with our passions.
So for anyone feeling stuck in a motivational rut, the key takeaway is to explore your strengths,
Right.
clarify your values, and find activities that bring you joy and a sense of purpose.
Exactly.
Okay.
And remember, motivation isn't a constant state.
Right.
It ebbs and flows.
That's true. Some days we're full of energy and inspiration.
Yep.
Other days we just want to stay in bed.
It happens.
Yeah.
The book emphasizes the importance of building systems and habits that support consistent action, even when we're not feeling particularly motivated.
So it's about creating structures that help us stay on track even when our motivation dips.
Exactly.
I like that. It's like setting ourselves up for success no matter what our mood is like on any given day.
Precisely.
Okay.
And the book encourages us to kind of approach this whole process of mastering our emotions with a sense of self-compassion.
Self-compassion is so important.
Yeah.
We're all works in progress, and it's okay to have ups and downs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The book emphasizes that it's not about being perfect.
Right, about being present, aware, and kind to ourselves as we navigate the complexities of our emotional lives.
That's such a beautiful message.
Yeah,
It's a reminder that we're all human and we're all doing the best we can with what we've got.
exactly.
So let's talk about resentment. The book says it comes up when we hold on to anger and hurt from the past, especially when we haven't really dealt with those experiences, directly.
So we keep replaying the argument or the hurtful event in our heads.
Right.
And that just keeps the resentment going instead of processing it and moving on.
Exactly. The book says it's really important to confront the situation that's causing the resentment,
Okay.
like through direct communication.
Right.
Or if that's not possible, maybe journaling or even writing a letter that we don't actually send.
Yeah, sometimes confronting the person directly isn't an option.
Right.
But even just processing our feelings by writing can help us let go of some of that energy.
Absolutely. And the book also talks about forgiveness as a really important part of healing resentment. Forgiveness, that's a tough one. It can be so hard to forgive someone who's hurt us.
It is. And the book is careful to say that forgiveness doesn't mean we're saying what they did was okay.
Right.
It's more about releasing ourselves from that anger and resentment.
So it's not about saying what you did was okay,
Right.
but more about saying I'm choosing to let go of the anger and pain so I can move on.
Exactly. It's about getting our emotional freedom back.
That's a powerful way to look at it. The book also talks about choosing to forget. Is that even possible? Some things just hurt so much.
Well, it's not about erasing the memory. It's more about deciding where we focus our attention.
Okay.
We can let go of the story we've been telling ourselves and choose to focus on the present moment and creating a better future.
So we're making a conscious decision to shift our focus and energy. That makes sense. Now, what about jealousy? That can be so destructive in relationships and even just for our own peace of mind.
It really can.
Yeah.
But the book says jealousy can actually give us clues about what we want deep down.
Wait, so you're saying jealousy can point us in the right direction?
It can. Like, let's say you're jealous of a friend's success.
Okay.
Instead of letting that eat you up, you could ask yourself, what is it about their success that I like? Does this mean I want something similar in my own life?
So we can use it as a tool to learn more about ourselves instead of seeing jealousy as a purely negative thing.
Exactly. And the book also talks about the importance of moving from a competitive mindset to a cooperative one.
So we stop seeing other people's wins as a threat,
Right.
and instead we see them as inspiration or maybe even a chance to work together.
Precisely. It's recognizing that there's enough success to go around.
And that's so much more empowering. Now, what about depression? It can be so hard to deal with.
It is. And the book approaches it very carefully.
Okay.
It recognizes that depression is a complicated issue and suggests getting professional help when needed.
It's not as simple as telling someone to just snap out of it or think positive.
Right. The book offers some strategies for dealing with depression. One is to challenge those negative thoughts and beliefs that make us feel hopeless.
So we recognize that our thoughts aren't always true.
Exactly.
And we can choose to look at things from a more empowering perspective.
The book also talks about the importance of taking action, even if they're just small steps toward making things better.
So even when we're feeling depressed, we can still do things to help ourselves feel better.
Exactly.
Wow, this deep dive has been so helpful. I feel like I have a lot more tools to deal with difficult emotions now.
I'm glad to hear that.
I want to thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today. And thank you to Thibault Meurice for writing such a great book. To our listener, if you'd like to learn more, check out Master Your Emotions. And remember, mastering our emotions is a journey. It's about awareness practice and being kind to ourselves. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep choosing emotional well-being.